Good morning, afternoon or evening, and welcome to another 0AD Alpha 23 replay analysis. Today's game is an interesting one because it's after I'd been really starting to practice the opening part of the game, and it serves as a good contrast to see how the two different people involved, myself and a guy called ipapaw or ipapaw, I don't know what that is exactly, how we each approach the opening and how I'm pretty happy on the whole with the way that my opening goes and how I transition from kind of the very beginning and developing the economy into a more of a military stance. So the match itself is between the Gauls and he's playing as the Romans, and we're rated at this point. I'm 1345, he's 1344, so it's theoretically a very even match, and it's just an interesting game to look at. So at the beginning, I just do my normal kind of approach. I've got 6 women and going to send the women off to build a farmstead from which I'm going to get the berry upgrade because I have these berries here that I want to collect, and that helps to really boost your ability to get your population up very quickly. Interestingly, his map shows 3 groups of berries, but he doesn't actually even build a farmstead, which is really strange. So he's got a massive amount of food there, and yet he's not taken advantage of that, and that's one of the things that's very interesting. Also, his first building is a house, which I understand because the houses are more expensive for people like the Romans, but nonetheless, he hasn't actually built any other buildings at this stage, and it's just a different approach, but I think it does hinder his ability to quickly move his population onwards. So I've got these 3 women that you've just seen pop out of the house of the town centre. They're on their way, and I'm going to basically just, as you can see here, if I zoom in, one of those is going to build a house any second now, I hope. Let's keep looking because there you go, there he goes, and we've got basically one guy working on house, and I'm going to try, as part of my thing with the introduction, to get only one person building houses and the rest of the people so even though the house takes longer to build, the rest of the population are actually gathering resources, and that's my approach. I mean, interestingly, you might have noticed if you've been watching his window that he only actually started gathering wood, because everyone was sent to gather food. He only actually started gathering wood at about 1 minute 20, which is a strange, again, it's a bit late in the day, I'd have to say. So I'm now at the point where I'm just going to be able to produce 5 women, and as you can see, it takes about 27 seconds to get 5 women. But it takes a lot less than that to build a house. So with all of these additional people now coming to wood, they can continue collecting wood at a pretty decent rate, and the houses will just go up one at a time, until eventually you get to a reasonable population. Now, the one thing that I'm really not that happy about with the opening is this bit here. You can see I've got 10 women, and they're all gathered around a single berry bush that has 1 berry left on it. So now, because we've collected all the chickens, I've not actually got any food income, and that's going to really hit my ability to produce anything basically. So what I should really have done there is get 5 of those women off. When it gets down to, you see them go to the last bush, get 5 women off, get them to build 2 farms, and hopefully in the time that they built the second farm and started actually gathering the food from it, the other 5 women can then come across and they can be working the second farm. Having said that, I'm still at this point pretty far ahead in population. I'm on 32, he's on 26, and I'm relatively happy that I'm keeping my population due to the houses that I'm building. I'm not in a risk of getting that. I mean, he's now just started to build his first farm, and that's, yeah, it's late in the day for him. Having said that, he has been smart in getting his cavalry. He's noticed that he's got a load of oxes near his base, musk ox, and has been actually getting food from those. So that's been a positive and a good use of his resources. However, those berries just sitting there, it almost hurts my eyes to see someone not utilising that. If you look around where I am, I've been given actually loads of metal, but in fairness, he's also got quite a bit of metal, and I haven't been given any additional food. So he's had all of that advantage and not actually been able to take advantage of it. I should really have got this wood upgrade by now. I haven't. I've got so much wood there that should really be using it, but haven't been. And yeah, that's not really particularly smart. What I have noticed though is that they're starting to get a bit of a distance between the wood and the storehouses. So a second storehouse is going up on the other side, which will it'll allow people to have a shorter distance. So this wood should be able to get dealt with pretty quickly. I'm now getting the first farming upgrade, and that will allow me to produce people to get the food in at a far quicker rate, because I was too late getting my women across from the berries onto the farming. What I have done, if we have a quick look around the map, is I've got all these muskox here that I found and over here, and I'm not utilising them. So I could also have built some more cavalry to get them doing that. They've been getting a few, but not as many as could be. I'm getting close to being housed again, so I'm starting to panic, and I'm just going to pull my the soldiers away. They're going to build a barracks over here. I'm quite happy with this location of the barracks. It's going to allow me to produce people that can quickly get to the stone and to this metal and also to this wood. So that's a good location there. Quite happy with that. These cavalry could do with going out and collecting some more food, but that's not the end of the world, and they're off doing that now. And again, I've just got a single woman who's trying to build the houses to keep things chugging along. The only thing to bear in mind is that once I'm producing from both the barracks and the town centre, I'll probably need more people producing houses to make sure that I can keep up with demand, so to speak. Anyway, having done kind of the opening, let's have a quick look at the map itself. So there are these big sort of bits of stone. In fact, there's only that one big bit of stone. I take that back. I thought there were kind of dividing lines. There's not. There are small groups of trees everywhere. And if we look at my opponent now, you see he was also given these three things of metal, just like I was. And the good thing from his point of view, as playing the Romans, is that metal is far more valuable to them than it is actually to the Gauls. Although actually I can use with the Gauls I can create fanatics, so they use metal. But he's now able to potentially, he can get an upgrade on his barracks that allows him to create champions from the barracks. And if he's got, well, as it is 5,000, there's 15,000 metal. That is going to make him a lot of champions and or a lot of siege engines. So he's got great potential there. He's now successfully managed to get his first storehouse up, and this is a farmstead. Although I'm not, particularly, unless he starts building the farms around the outside of the houses, which isn't great planning. That's not actually a particularly useful location for the farmstead. Could have put it on this side and then gathered these berries and potentially even these berries, and it would also have allowed him to build out this way. He's now closed off with this barracks the potential to really utilise this farmstead with places further from the civic centre. Could have put farms around there, around the back here and the side. There's lots of places. That's not great play on his part. If we just have a look at his population, it's 7.5 minutes in, he's on 36, and he's just housed himself, which is really not particularly good. Having said that, if we look at my own population, I'm not doing as well as I would have liked. I've been hit quite hard with that initial lack of farms. So although I now have the first upgrade, I mean, I'm still a long way from getting to the town phase. I've got plenty of food, but what I really need is to get more and more people chopping trees. These guys are showing a good example of what it's helpful to do with storehouses. Those few seconds they've spent building that storehouse and the extra, I think it's 100 wood that a storehouse is. Let me just check. Yeah, is well worth it in the amount of time they're going to save by no longer having to walk all this distance to give their food back. It's something that you'll see if you watch any of the the really good players playing, you see after the trees are gone, this really weird line of storehouses, and the reason is that they just keep building new storehouses closer and closer to the wood until the wood runs out, which leaves them like some post-industrial kind of decline that you might associate with modern US cities such as Detroit or and so on. I've not been there, but you know, it's certainly something that I've heard, and certainly seems to be borne out by a lot of the anger in those communities that their jobs have disappeared. And that is an interesting sociological take on the idea that you build more storehouses closer to wood. But that's the kind of incredible insight from an Anglo-Portuguese living in London of American urban decay. So, you know, if you want more of that, then you're probably not going to get it, because that's the limit. But you know, you might do. So keep tuning in. You never know. I'm now continuing to build up my housing stock. So I've got plenty of spare capacity. What I'm not the best at, I have to say, and do need to practice, is getting this just in the right amounts so that I am producing housing that kind of at the point that it's demanded, but I can use that wood when it's more needed for actually producing soldiers or whatever, and equally not building up a big surplus and then forgetting that as you gradually eat into that surplus, and then you suddenly realize that you need, oh god, I need another 10 houses to really get myself going, because I've got 3 barracks on the go and they're all pushing troops out. But I'm relatively pleased. And if we just have a quick look, what was the population? Population 113 after 10.5 minutes. That's not too bad. I'd prefer it to be up closer to 130, but not awful. And I'm quite pleased as well with these guys. There's only one tree with 97 wood left in, so I've just pulled those out so that they don't get forgotten about and left, and they're instead coming to build a new storehouse here, and they're going to take on this wood line. These woods here are pretty well stocked. I could do with getting the second upgrade, and I will get that at some point. I think my opponent's actually gone to the town phase. He has, and he's started to build this kind of defensive line around his buildings. Interesting though, if you look at the map on a kind of the direction of my base as opposed to his, he's actually left his town centre incredibly exposed. This, I don't really know, unless he's going to start gathering the wood here. This tower is actually not in a particularly useful position. It doesn't have enough range to actually cover this other wood line that's just over this point here, and I'm confused by that. I think it would make more sense to put that over maybe by this metal somewhere near there, where they could use it to gather these resources, and it would cover anyone doing that. But he has started gathering metal and stone. He's got he's gone different. One thing that's really helpful, I've learned, and I've probably said it about a million times in my videos, is that you use one type of citizen soldiers to gather the stone and one guy to gather the metal, and that way when one finishes, it's very easy just to select all the skirmishers that were gathering the resource that's now finished and can get them to go off elsewhere. So he's getting a second tree line going here, which is good. He's got, other than having loads and loads of food, he's not really got much in the way of resources. So he's not managed his economy particularly well. He's managed to lose one of his cavalry. He had to a walrus, which is the danger of the walrus. One of the things that you can do is you send a skirmisher to basically throw one spear at a walrus, and it will chase that skirmisher at about the same speed that the skirmisher can walk. And you just walk back to the town centre. It follows the skirmisher. That skirmishers, you lose their resources they would be gathering, but in this case, it's only one person, it's not the end of the world, and you bring basically 300 food right to your doorstep, and then all of this time that you can see these horses running backwards and forwards is not lost, as it is at the moment. They're just gathering food really, really quickly. That said, he has loads of food, so it's really not a massive problem for him. So what you'll notice is I've got another storehouse that I built on the other side of these woods, but they've the people are starting to get a little bit disparate. They're having to go longer distances, and I really need to get these guys to a more centralized position where they can get the wood from. When you start seeing your troops disassembling like this, it's not helpful. And what you can easily find, they become much easier to pick off for skirmish, or not skirmishers, but for anyone doing a bit of a skirmish. So what you may find is that you've got, these two guys here, they're dead due to some kind of ranged cavalry before you even realise what's happening, because they're all in little groups. Whereas if all of these guys, which is, I don't know, like, let's have a look, nearly 40 troops, if they were all at a different tree line, they would be able to defend themselves much better. I have now, because I'm playing against Romans, and it's one of the things you need to worry about with Romans is that they have excellent siege engines, or great combination of siege engines, that you're going to need to get yourself some sword cavalry, because they can just throw ram after ram after ram at you. They're not that expensive, and that's something that you have to be concerned about, particularly when you're playing someone who is rated theoretically as the same rating as me. I would expect that person to, at 15 minutes nearly, already be producing rams to send at me. So I've got a group of 5 sword cavalry that are just there in case the first ram comes in, but I'm going to need to produce a lot more. I have 3 barracks at this stage. They're all producing skirmishers, so that's a strange choice actually, because I'm actually a bit short of wood, so I really should be using them to produce slingers, which would save time. Slingers have a slightly longer range, which is helpful, but they do have fewer hits damage to troops. Although they can take out buildings, and they're actually not awful against rams. They're not the best either though, but they're useful. I'm at a point where I should really be looking to go to phase 3. I just need to build 2 more entities of the town class. I've got this, and yeah, so that at the moment I've got the armory, the blacksmith, and I've also got this tower. I'm going to build here. I'm building a temple, which will be a 3rd one, and I've got another tower going up here. This, yeah, it's not a great location for a tower. It's not actually there really for any purpose other than just to fill the need for another building of the town class. Just sort of, again, kind of a panicked thing. What would have been more helpful is actually to build one to defend this tree line, and which has now got a 2nd civic centre. We've got another building here, and this is something that you will find that players that are less confident, and I don't mean to be disparaging and say less able, but certainly someone who's less confident in their ability to defend, and particularly when you bear in mind that I've got just over 3 times the population that he has, is to build defensive walls. Strangely, if you are going to build a defensive wall, don't build it to defend an area that's already defended by houses and a tower. Build it instead to defend the section where these troops are coming out now. So if we look from his point of view, he's noticed that the blue line has meant that something has happened. He's also seen this town centre and this temple, and he's sending some troops over there. I've not really taken stock of that, which isn't particularly good, and if I had, I may well have done something about it. Also, while this is going on, if we just go and look at the things, he's got a lot of skirmishers. These spearmen and swordsmen are doing a great job of chopping into my ranged troops, and I'm bringing over some horses and bringing over more cavalry now. But what I've actually got, which is really kind of an odd decision on my part, is to leave the vast bulk of my army, about, what's that, 72 troops. I've left them just chopping wood over there rather than coming to defend these troops. They're finally on their way now. If we just have a look from a slightly different angle, you'll see that they're all forming, dropping woods off, and they're going to come and get us. What my opponent does very well at this stage, which is a really, really great move on his part, is he captures the temple. This means he can heal his troops. That's an absolutely brilliant move, exactly what he should have done. Then he doesn't actually garrison it though. which is a shame because from his point of view, all he needs to do is garrison that. It's going to be very difficult for me to take it, and he can start to reinforce. So you can see already the amount that it's his is decreasing dramatically, and he's going to find that he loses that that resource very, very quickly. He's done well to stay inside its healing range, which means his troops are able to benefit from healing not as quickly, though, unfortunately for him, as they're being killed. And now that he's lost the thing, lost the temple, to me that's been reversed, and now my troops are the ones that are healing by being within the temple's range. So from this point, it basically just, I've defended that pretty successfully. If we look at the resources, I'm in a strong position. I need some more wood, so I can get some, basically I'll get some troops out getting wood. Very quickly I'm going to get these women, hopefully, back out. So that's 15 women gathering wood. I think I've got some other wood coming in elsewhere as well. I mean, that shouldn't be happening. I should build another storehouse over on this wood line over here for these couple of fellas there that are just doing stuff. And I've started now producing skirmishers from all of my, not skirmishers, sorry, whatever these other things are called, slingers, thank you, from all of my barracks. And I really need to start getting barracks much closer to his base. If we look, he's sent basically 40 odd troops over, so that, based on his population size now, his army is, like, I don't believe it was that he's not created anyone new. I think he's probably reinforced with at least 20 or 30 troops since that fight. So probably he was sending at least half of his population over to attack there. This is, again, this is just ridiculous. That's not good enough for this line. These guys are walking a phenomenal distance, and half of his troops are not even actually doing anything. What he needs to do is go to this group of trees that are over near the berries and actually start like gathering wood there, although he's gone to the other side, which again I don't think is a particularly good move on his part, because he knows that I'm on his doorstep, and yet he's moved his army all the way to the point where they can't actually defend. So again, not a great decision, but one of those things that you kind of learn as you play. You'd be better off having those troops on the front line. Like, I know that he's got some female citizens there, so yes, absolutely send your females to the back where they're not going to be attacked, but you need your troops to be in a position where they can defend, because I can just send people across to attack this side. What he is doing, though, which is very sensible, is building a defensive tower. That is in a good position. It's where I would have put the first tower. But what I'm doing is building this tower to help give me extra scope to reinforce my new onward expansion here. I've got now 3 rams sat in the, if I just go to look at this from my perspective, I still don't really know what's beyond that thing. I haven't even explored all of my own territory, you'll see from the map. So I've got my horses all went in, my cavalry, to get repaired, to all get healed in the in the temple, and I'm just now claiming effectively one of his wood lines. This is so close to his base. This should have been wood that he had claimed. He shouldn't be allowing me to take that. That's his resources, and those resources are pretty scarce. Particularly this map is not one which has got massive forests that you can just chop into for 5-10 minutes and find your troops are still there. He's now finally completing his wall. It's a wall that serves no purpose, because I'm never going to come from that side. Even if you look at this from, this is okay, his view looking out at my base, as you can see. Why would I come from that side? It doesn't make any sense. He'd be better off putting that wall across where he's got these houses and this stone is, of course, there to defend, because my rams are going to come in from that perspective. If you're playing against the Gauls or the Britons, you absolutely know that their only siege engine is rams. At least, yeah, it is. I thought for a second maybe I'd got that wrong, but it is. So that's all you're going to face. So yes, in that case, it's very helpful to get walls. because that can help stop the rams getting to your town centre. But you can actually defend your town centre just by building lots of houses around it, and it becomes very difficult to break that down. So again, it's not a particularly useful approach. So I'm now sending people forward, and if we look here, you see I'm just starting to build 3 barracks, and those barracks will absolutely, he can't see them, but once I'm able to reinforce my armies from so close, it will be all over. He's finally starting to build the rest of this wall round, but as you can see, all of his troops are stuck around the wrong side of the thing, so they're not able to stop the attack. He's now got, I don't know, let's have a look, take off the, he's got an army of about 70 troops, but I've got my hero, and I've got about 100 and, yeah, well over 100 troops, so 110-ish, and although he's successfully with the Roman swordsmen, which are very, very good for defending against rams, he has successfully taken that ram out. This next ram has managed to get itself trapped and is going to be taken out very shortly. The others are backing off, but my hero is just going in to try and see what he can do against this to help dig my ram out of trouble. It's too late to stop that, but we have, he's down to about 60 troops, now 65 from what was 75, and that is going to drop dramatically as my army actually approaches. The hero that I've got offers, if we have a quick look, well, that's a very, very good hero. I'll be using him in future if I'm Gauls. Plus 20 attack and capture for soldiers and siege engines. So my troops that are already, I've souped up my slingers through the, whatever it's called, the armory to make them the best attacking force they can be. They're just going to massacre this troops. They've even got the advantage now of my hero, who just continues to attack, and he actually died. But in dying, he's quite literally taken one for the team. He may well have died, but because they focused so much of their fire on him, the rest of my army have just been able to now completely advance. He's got 6 troops left. I don't even know where. Yeah, everyone else. He's got 4 women there gathering a bit of food, but I think his population is probably almost 0. Well, it is now because he's just resigned. It does go down to 0, but he's got 2 women there, another 4 women I think there were in the forest. Let's have a look at Gaia. Yeah, another 4 women, and he had 5 women here. There's no other buildings, I don't think, that have been garrisoned. So, 3 more. Yeah, he does have a load of women actually, but no soldiers and no way of protecting against this ram knocking his town centre down. So he realised it was all gone. So that game, I found it quite instructive, because what I enjoyed was being able to look at the kind of one of the openings to my one. I was relatively happy with. There were still issues with it. I don't think the transition from from berry gathering and gathering from hunting into farming was particularly good, but having said that, it was still significantly better than someone leaving so many berries untouched. They're really, really quick to gather, really easy food. If you're lucky enough that you start with all of this additional resource, so he's got 3 things of metal as opposed to 1. So as soon as you see that, along with the combination of the extra fruit, the first thing that you should be doing is, right, I need to get that berry upgrade, and then I'm now, because I know that I've got so much metal, I can afford to be kind of defensive and not actually expand too much, because when I do, I'm going to be able to expand with a phenomenal number of champion units, which are going to be much stronger than my opponent's units. Particularly when you're Romans, it would be very difficult to find a setup that would be better for him. He did have a really, really great opportunity, but was a bit slow. And yeah, to be blunt, I don't know how he's got that rating, or whether he even is actually, has found that it's gone back a bit lower, or he's now managed to enhance his game to get better at it. But it was an interesting game. I enjoyed it, and it's the first one, as I say, when I after I'd really started looking purely at how am I going to work my openings. And the next few videos are going to be kind of moving on from that sequence, so continuing that. But that said, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then hit like or subscribe. I think I've seen other people say that, and they've got like 1 million followers. So if they say it and they have not followers, subscribers, or things, then maybe I'll get 1 million people liking my videos as well. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and adeus e bom dia.